thought I was done for the day, but I watched a couple of videos before I was going to walk out the door. So I gave this some thought, and I figured, well, for the sake of putting it on record, I'll put my 2 cents worth in on putting it on the record. I think I mentioned yesterday that I got an email from Anavon Rights that mentioned, actually provided a link for the for a podcast that had, I believe her name was Mary Fanny, that was having a discussion with a three-star general in the Air Force, General McInerney, who worked out of NORAD. He also worked up in Alaska, worked with Pentagon's SAC Command, all that high-level stuff, right? So this is information that is known at the highest levels of the National Security Administration with the president. So it's not like President Trump isn't aware of this, okay? And that is, of course, everybody knows and has probably heard of the hammer. Now, in the last few videos, I talked about the supercomputers that I have, that I was very aware of when I was a child, if you will. The nature of how programming works, like, I'm a small child and I realize I'm getting a thought form algorithm that is something less than what I normally run. Where in the hell is that thought coming from? That isn't me. Right? So you realize right away when you know that you acknowledge the difference between what love is, which is eternal, that you normally run a vibration, which is outside time, then I'm not supposed to be experiencing anything that is inside time, which is based on memory. So that's your first clue that you're in a lower dimension, okay? So then you obviously ask the question, well then, why am I here? What is the reason for which I'm here, for which I can give the greatest purpose and meaning to my life? Well, obviously, when you realize that as a small child, you're on a spiritual battlefield. This is an energy war, which is a frequency war, as a result of lower density consciousness, higher density consciousness, lower frequency, higher frequency. Okay? That's easy stuff right out of the gate. Okay? That's the difference. Okay? Between a black hole and a white hole, if you will, loss of energy, gain of energy. Okay? I've covered that till I'm blue in the face. So in order for anything that is a parasite or parasitic consciousness to can't love what it is, and yet it needs a source of energy which to draw from because it's a consumer, if you will, or in this case, a parasite, which means that it can't generate any love, and if it can't generate any love to be a powerful magnet on which it's attracting more light of what it is, which means, hey, I got all the energy that I need because I figured I am what the light is, so I am growing my light spirit body, which means now I'm spinning a circle of light to spin my Merkaba at a high rate of speed. Wow, I love this energy. Okay, that's simple. So when you know that, because you are that, then it means that you know how to self-manage your own energy field to maintain a state of peace, a state of love, etc. Okay? So when you begin to realize, okay, where am I getting all these thought forms from? That it represents what's trying to be put into my memory. So, just like a calculator, memory plus, you begin to vector. It's like you already know what pieces of information in order to engage. It's like coming into a computer that's corrupted. Okay, so imagine that you're a computer terminal, right? You're running a clean machine. You're running pure light, which is pure unconditional love. Okay, that means that all the data that you normally run on as an original operating system that a goddess gives you is meant for you to run high frequency energy in order to be a big ass lighthouse on the planet. Because you realize that I'm in an avatar that represents a native Indian. So that's natural to be able to do that because the native Indians are the peacekeepers, the healers, and the teachers down here, right? Okay, so what happened to my universe? What happened to my world? When you know that love has always been the law here. Obviously, you got invaders here. Parasites. Okay? So now you begin to realize the nature of the war that you're in, and now you've got to identify the terrain, which is the zoo, which means you're now making IDs of everybody that's here, and then trying to read and map the terrain of the nature of who is here and whether they're native here, and if they're not native here, where are they from, and what is the nature of the energy that they're running. Okay? So when you get into the nature of understanding how memory and no memory work, it begins pretty easy to understand how light works and how electrons work in an electromagnetic spectrum, right? Without getting into all the other stuff. It's pretty simple. What is the state of your vibration? Okay? So in this particular case, after listening to that podcast, I realized that, and this ties directly what I already said about because I watched all the ships coming in here, and I figure most everybody that's ever watched a dogfight, which basically means two combat airplanes duking it out in the sky, right, trying to take each other down or whatever. You could see all the dogfights that were going on between 1997 and roughly 2014, and you could see the bad guys were getting their butt kicked. Okay, so when you begin to realize when you got a connection with Patty Broussard, she takes you for the grand tour because she built a computer lab at NASA. She shows you everything that's going on. Hey, I get it. You get it. You put it all together. Thank you very much for filling in some of the blank spaces. Now you got a little more of the details. So you begin to realize that all this light came in here to kick their ass and kick them out of here. Okay, so it's over. It's done. So when you sort of already know that in 1997, it's like, just hang out and wait for the movie to end. Right? Because it's not like the light is going to come in here in such force. We're bringing a Battlestar in here, 396 battle planets, okay? The Blue Kachina, and then just decide they're going to leave this planet to the demons. Okay? It's just like, the A-Team decides to come on in here, they're kicking ass, and now what? They're going to leave us to all these demons? Be consumed by them? Is that what you really believe? When the cavalry comes in to rescue you, they're not going to abandon you. Okay? They come in here to help liberate the consciousness of humanity that will allow it to ascend as it was designed to, which is what the purpose of a classroom is. So when you realize the role that artificial intelligence played in the programming, it was designed to make sure that you never ascend to get back home. Okay, to where they can just continue to use us as a perpetual source of energy to feed on. That's why they set up their hierarchical control systems in which to do that. So we know who they are, we know where they all exist, we know exactly the positions that they hold, where they live. As a matter of fact, they can't breathe without us knowing where they are. Okay? Everything is exposed in the light. Okay? So I just watched another video which was, and I've mentioned this before, that because I'm an autonomous unit and I look at a lot of pieces of information, because I realize that when you live in a big universe, there are a lot of players involved in all this. Okay? You got the Archons, you've got the Tall Whites, you've got the Draco Reptilians, you've got the Nazis, okay? You've got the military-industrial complex. You got the progenitors that are out there. You got the Anunnaki that are out there in their Dyson sphere. There are a lot of beings and ships that are coming in and out of here, and there's a lot of folks that are observing us to see how this is going to go down. They want to see humanity succeed in its ascension timeline to free themselves, to get their energy up. Okay, which means shifting the collective consciousness to where they're no longer held essentially by parasites, so they could free themselves to learn how to become a more powerful magnet, because they want to be autonomous, which means they want to live in peace, they want to live in harmony, they want to live in balance. That's the natural state in which most humans that I've come to know on this planet would prefer to live in their communities, so that their families and the relationships that they have with other beings can thrive. Okay? And that is allowed to go forward, obviously, by removing the bad actors that prevent that from happening. Because when you have something that's trying to control you, that's always feeding on your energy, then it makes it hard for people to be able to do that. That's why this is going down, which sort of means that it sort of plays out like this. You know how it is when you want to catch a criminal, right? Give them all the rope that they need to hang themselves, and they will hang themselves. Okay? That's essentially what they did. That's essentially what went down. Let them pull it off. Let them show how corrupt they actually are. Just let them play it out. Give them enough rope to let them hang themselves. Which means now we have all the evidence on all the players that were a part of the scheme to take down the American Republic, if you will, in the way that that is perceived. Okay? Because people want their freedom, which is represented by the Declaration of Independence. Okay? When Trump laid the gauntlet down and said that committing human rights abuses on this planet, we're going to seize your assets and you're going to jail. That's an act of war under international law. Okay? And that's the law. That's the law here. 528 is the law here. Okay? Because the planet's being restored. Love as a law is being restored. That means the light is being restored. Okay? Now, I know that. Okay? I know that because I am that. Okay? There is a mountain of light in here that's trying to assist everybody that's here, trying to sort through all this stuff, trying to figure out what's really going on. Okay? It's like a Sherlock Holmes story, right? When the result was actually already known. Okay? I've said this all along. The light actually already won this. And of course, you're going to know that in time anyway. So when I was watching The Positive Side of 2012, that's another YouTube channel. I forget the guy's name. Tom. That's right, Tom. He's a self-described dragon, okay? And we're not talking about a Draco, okay? A dragon, which used to be what was known as the oversight here on the planet, which meant to sort of keep the peace and monitor, if you will, the classroom as students are learning how to, if you will, become a more powerful lighthouse, which is learning how light works through the girl on the planet, because nature is the teacher that shows us how to do that. Okay, so the more that you have a spiritual communication relationship with the girl on the planet, you begin to realize that the higher vibrational energies that you experience through her allows your energy to go up along with the energy from the sun, from which allows us to experience more light instead of darkness, which is simply lower frequency. So in that regard, he mentioned on a video that he just posted on Positive Side 2012, where he's represented himself as the United Federation of Planets. Okay? So this means that this is a group that is identifying themselves as the United Federation of Planets. And they represent themselves as good guys, guys in the light. Now, I've watched a number of the videos that he puts up, and I know that most of the information, particularly in the way that light works, electrons work, ions work, that the science that they know and how that works is correct. So in other words, from a scientific or a spiritual science point of view, there isn't anything that I have a problem with in what they express. Okay? Particularly when it comes to having a relationship with a cell phone that is artificial parasitic intelligence. And how it can, and I've experienced this myself, okay, many times, as a matter of fact, because it has access to my biochip. There used to be a number of different occasions, particularly when you think of a timeline and certain events that are happening at very specific times. Remember I talked about, like, before about the rain, the possibility of rain that has already happened. That simply means that that is an event on the event horizon. The possibility that that event can occur is always possible. But in order for that event to occur on the event horizon that you are on, then you would have to invoke it by having enough consciousness and energy to believe it will, and it will. Okay? So in regard to that, the Positive Side of 2012 just came out and said, relax. This was always part of the plan, and the plan that give them enough rope, let them hang themselves, okay? So in other words, there's too much information that's being spread out now on alternative media about knowing what most people already know across America. Those that voted red or for President Trump know, because we're connected to a higher state of consciousness in which we knew that President Trump was representing the light, means that we know that President Trump won by overwhelming numbers. Okay, which means the result was never in any doubt in our minds, because we knew that the light had already won this. Okay? So when you know that, you can almost laugh that the mass media, because they're the bad guys, they're the CIA, okay, are naturally going to do what they do, okay, which is to say that this guy, this demon Biden, won. He didn't win anything. Most everybody who's still got any sanity in America knows that. Unless you're living in fear of what love is and you believe that Biden represents what love is, which is what the light is. And if you do, you're living in a lie. Okay? I believe that enough people woke up, which means they're running more light, the speed of their vibration has gone up, and they realized by everything that Trump did, for anybody that was taking a look under the hood to see everything that he did throughout the course of the last 4 years, was on behalf of everybody that lives in this country. He was fighting for everybody. I mean, if you didn't know that America essentially, and we've known this for 40 years, was up to the highest bidder. Whoever wanted a chunk out of the American hide, have at it. So what do you think Congress did? Who's willing to buy this? Who's willing to buy that? You're willing to pay me $150 billion if I'm willing to give you access to uranium over there, and where is that? Over there in Oregon, where what was the Burns Ranch? What happened there down in southern Nevada? Okay? Hell, they had the FBI under control, and if you look at the history of the FBI, you begin to realize the connection that they have with France. These were all the reptilians and the monarchs, okay? The bad guys, the deep state guys, the military-industrial construct, the bloodline families, okay? The hybrids, the Draco-Reptilian and Anunnaki hybrids, okay? Which means they don't have any love to generate for nobody, okay? They see everything through parasitic consciousness, which means everything to conquer and pillage to have more control, okay? They're psychopaths, which is pure self-indulgence and perversion of nature. They have no love for nature. Absolutely none. They could care less with how much water they pollute, how much soil they pollute, how much air they pollute, how much they pollute us by the nature of the way that they do things. Because they believe that by acquiring more energy and acquiring more money gives them greater control over you, and whatever destruction that they cause in the process doesn't matter to them because they have so much money that they perceive to as power, thinks that that allows them to buy immunity. All they got to do is buy off a federal judge. Hey, judge, I'll tell you what, I'll buy you a Lear jet, have it parked out at the airport, you can go pick up next week. Just make sure that when this case hits your courtroom, this is what you're going to do. That's how money, when I was a child, we knew was the root of all evil. Because the more that you keep acquiring off the backs of others that allow you to have more power over others, is where that saying, that old saying used to come up with is power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And money became the means through which they did it. Remember when I mentioned that before? What do you do if you hand $1 billion to a parasite? What do you think they're going to do with it? Anyway, the light won this. I know that. And in fact, the fact that they decided to do what they did, this means that the events are going to accelerate at a very accelerated rate now, which means that the good news going forward will accelerate. That's the good news. So when the positive side of 2012 told everybody, go get your popcorn, it's like, we already knew this, huh? Have a great day. We love you all. I am happy and excited, but I've always been happy and excited because it's beautiful to have a relationship with a goddess in the planet who decided that that was enough. That's all I needed to know. Have a great day. I love you all.